Coming up on this Thursday edition of Daybreak, South Korean Cardinal Andrew Yeom Soo-jung makes an unprecedented visit to North Korea, crossing the border for a one-day visit to an inter-Korean industrial park. The leaders of China and Russia reach a 30-year natural gas deal expected to be worth $400 billion, sealing their friendship while they remain at odds with the US. Plus, the search for the elusive owner of the sunken Sewol-ho ferry goes on as prosecutors find no sign of him inside his church retreat. Daybreak begins now. Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Thursday, May 22nd here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom and you're tuned in to Daybreak. Our top story this morning, South Korea's Cardinal Andrew Yeom Soo-jung is now back in the south after spending most of Wednesday at the Inter-Korean Industrial Park in North Korea's border city of Kaesong. It's highly significant as it marked the first visit to the north by a South Korean Roman Catholic leader, and with Pope Francis scheduled to come to South Korea in August, there's speculation he might become the first pope to visit North Korea. Hwang Sung-hee reports.
Cardinal Andrew Yeom Soo-jung became the first Korean Roman Catholic leader to ever cross the inter-Korean border on Wednesday. The trip comes amid escalating tensions on the peninsula, but after touring the factory zone and meeting with South Korean Catholics there, Cardinal Yeom said he saw hope for the two Koreas.
By visiting the Kaesong Industrial Complex, where the South and the North must live together, I saw hope that the two Koreas can overcome their pain and sadness. If goodwill people try with an honest heart, I think we can secure peace on the peninsula.
While there were questions on whether the trip was political, the Cardinal's delegation said they had no contact with North Korean officials. Cardinal Yeom, who had been vocal about his desire to hold Mass at the Kaesong complex, instead prayed with South Korean Catholics for the two Koreas. He had planned to hold Mass at the joint industrial park last December, but it was scrapped at the last minute, following the execution of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's uncle Jang Sung-taek. The Cardinal's trip comes 3 months before Pope Francis is scheduled to arrive in South Korea for a visit, fueling speculation that the Holy Father could also make a stop in the north. Pope Francis, who has shown a great deal of interest in peace and reconciliation between the two Koreas, is expected to deliver a message for the entire peninsula when he visits Seoul in August. However, the Korean Catholic Church said the Cardinal's visit was arranged upon request by a group of South Korean Catholics last year, and that the Pope has no plans to visit North Korea. For now, the attention is on whether Cardinal Yeom's rare trip will contribute in thawing inter-Korean relations. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News, Paju.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's push to restore his country's right to collective self-defense, which is essentially the right to come to the aid of an ally under attack, has sparked alarm bells here in the region, especially here in Korea. Abe's plan is far from popular domestically, and experts are also asking what effect it could have on the security situation in Northeast Asia. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
The opinions on Japan's push to restore its right to collective self-defense are varied and strong. A senior researcher in the United States, weighing in on the latest developments, said South Korea, Japan, and the United States need to hold trilateral talks on the matter, particularly regarding the range of influence Tokyo could have on the Korean peninsula after the right to collective self-defense takes effect. Larry Nish of the Congressional Research Service said South Korea is undoubtedly against Japan's push, and that the key issue was determining how much is Washington willing to compromise with Seoul on the matter. Even inside Japan, there is resistance. The Japanese daily Asahi Shimbun conducted a public opinion poll last month on Prime Minister Abe's push to expand the role of Japan's self-defense forces. 63% of Japanese people polled were against the move. Just 29% were for it, leaving questions about whether Abe will be able to move the public and politicians. Mindy Kotler, the director of the U.S.-based research center Asia Policy Point, said Abe is seeking to reinterpret Japan's pacifist constitution too hastily. She pointed out that the administration is not fit to handle the task as they have been unable or unwilling so far to resolve historical differences with neighboring countries. That said, most sources within Washington say Japan's collective self-defense reform will strengthen the nation's alliance with the U.S. and in turn enhance security on the Korean peninsula. Bruce Klingler, a senior research fellow for Northeast Asia at the Heritage Foundation, says without Japan's support, it will be impossible to defend Seoul in the event of an armed clash between the two Koreas. He added that it's imperative to bolster defenses to counter threats from Pyongyang and Beijing. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
And Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is urging lawmakers in Japan to lay the groundwork for a summit between Korea and Japan. Japan's national broadcaster NHK reported Wednesday that Abe called on Liberal Democratic Party lawmaker Nukaga Fukushiro, a former finance minister, to ensure parliamentary members use every possible channel to push for summit talks. Abe reportedly made the comments at his official residence in Tokyo while discussing the trilateral summit talks that took part between Korea, Japan and the US in The Hague back in March. Fukushiro said that while diplomatic ties with Seoul have soured, the two countries still have a solid economic relationship. A private two-day Korea-Japan business meeting was held in Japan just last week. Korean President Park Geun-hye and Abe, who both came to power early last year, have yet to hold a bilateral summit due to strained ties over historical and territorial issues. Russia and China have agreed a massive natural gas deal. A decade of negotiations was finally concluded at the tail end of a state visit to China by Russian President Vladimir Putin. Both sides will work on strengthening their military ties amid their strained relations with the US as well. Our Shin Se-min reports.
President Xi and Putin finally came to an agreement and signed off on a huge gas deal worth $400 billion on Wednesday. A 30-year contract between the Russian state-controlled fuel supplier and Chinese National Petroleum Corporation is seen as an indicator that Moscow has finally found a new buyer for its gas outside of Europe. The business deal was first discussed during the first round of summit talks on Tuesday, but was left unsigned as both sides couldn't agree on a price at which Russia would supply gas. The price tag on the Russian gas is still not disclosed, but the deal is seen as a move by Moscow to shift the country's interests eastward amid sanctions from the international community for its annexation of Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula. During a meeting in Shanghai on Tuesday, President Xi and Putin agreed to strengthen their economic and military ties. They also held in-depth talk about North Korea's nuclear and missile programs. Praising the tightening military ties between the two sides, President Putin said he was convinced Moscow and Beijing could forge a strong strategic partnership and that bilateral military cooperation was developing very well. Putin's visit to China coincided with the beginning of the two countries' joint naval exercises, Joint Sea 2014. The drills have raised red flags in Seoul as they overlap with South Korea's expanded air defense identification zone. Neither Moscow nor Beijing notified the South Korean government prior to its announcement. It's the first time an international military exercise has taken place within Korean waters since the expansion of the air defense zone last December. In regards to the security situation on the Korean peninsula, both sides said they were concerned about North Korea's nuclear program and the simmering political and military tensions between the two Koreas. China and Russia stressed the long-stalled six-party talks on North Korea's denuclearization are the only effective way of reaching a deal everyone is happy with. They called on all parties to do more to secure peace and stability in the region. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
Prosecutors on Wednesday entered a religious compound to detain the owner of the sunken Seoul-ho ferry's operator, but the man in question was nowhere to be seen. Officials are searching for evidence to prove Yoo Byung-an and his family were involved in criminal activities. Our Park Ji-won reports.
Prosecutors and police finally made their way into the religious compound in Anseong, Gyeonggi-do province at about noon on Wednesday to execute an arrest warrant for Yoo Byung-an, the practical owner of the Seoul-ho ferry operator. Hundreds of members of Yoo's religious cult who have been surrounding the estate for the past few days as human shields allowed only investigating prosecutors in. Investigators searching for the 73-year-old Yoo inside the 230,000 square meter compound have seen no sign of him, and they suspect that he may be hiding elsewhere, like at the home of one of his believers. So they began zeroing in on the homes of Yoo's believers and are conducting undercover operations to find him. Prosecutors are also trying to find evidence inside the compound in relation to criminal charges against the Yoo family, as they've been granted a search and seizure warrant. Wednesday's operation came after Yoo had ignored previous orders by prosecutors to show up for questioning over embezzlement, tax evasion, and malpractice charges. The authorities believe there may be some causal link there with the ferry operators' lack of investment in safety drills and personnel management. Prosecutors are also trying to bring in Yoo Dae-gyun, the eldest son of Yoo Byung-an, on charges of tax evasion and embezzlement of funds from company affiliates owned by the Yoo family. He was last seen at Incheon International Airport buying a one-way ticket to France 3 days after the ferry accident happened last month. However, as he was already banned from travel by the authorities, he didn't board a plane. Since then, his whereabouts have been unknown. Regarding Yoo's other children staying in foreign countries who haven't responded to prosecutors' orders for questioning, the authorities are trying to get them extradited through cooperation with other countries. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, there's less than 2 weeks to go until Koreans cast their ballots in the June 4th local elections, and recent polls suggest voters living in the key and most populous areas are warming to the main opposition party. Our Ji Myung-gil tells us what's behind the trend.
The effect of the government's poor handling of the Seoul ferry disaster is being reflected in recent polling, which shows that the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy is gaining support in Seoul, Incheon, and Gyeonggi-do province. According to a poll conducted this week by TNS Korea on more than 14,000 likely voters, the ruling Saenuri Party's candidate for Seoul Mayor, Chung Mong-jun, is more than 15 points behind incumbent Mayor Park Won-soon, who was at 51% support. It's a similar story in the city of Incheon, where the ruling party mayoral candidate Yoo Jung-bok is trailing incumbent Song Young-gil of the opposition party by more than 10 percentage points. The race for governor of Gyeonggi-do province is much tighter. Just 0.9 percentage points separate Saenuri candidate Nam Kyung-pil and opposition candidate Kim Jin-pyo in the TNS Korea polling. All three local races are considered significant on the national stage, as the three areas boast about half of Korea's total population. Earning victories in these races can give a party a full head of steam heading into future legislative and presidential elections. In other important local races, such as in the conservative stronghold city of Busan and in the liberal stronghold city of Gwangju, the polling fell more along party lines. According to a survey conducted by the National Election Commission last week, 55.8% of respondents said they will vote on election day, up 1 percentage point from the 2010 local elections. Campaigning is set to begin on Thursday, and public safety has emerged as the hot-button issue in light of April's ferry disaster. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Now, the Korean government will pump an extra $7.6 billion into the economy over the next 6 weeks or so to stimulate domestic demand, which has taken a huge hit in the wake of the Seoul-ho ferry disaster. The move was announced during a policy meeting with the ruling Saenuri Party on Wednesday, where Finance Minister Hyun Oh-seok said The move was part of government efforts to make sure the ferry sinking does not derail the economic recovery. The government is also considering tax breaks and other financial support for the tourism, transportation and lodging industries, which have been hurt badly by the disaster. The International Monetary Fund has given Korea's banking sector a vote of confidence, according to a stress test reported in its financial system stability assessment. The IMF said Korean banks are resilient to financial risks, citing improved capitalization following the financial crisis, the global financial crisis in 2008. However, the agency warned that the country's non-banking sector is increasingly vulnerable, saying it lacked readiness to deal with risks. The IMF recommended stricter inspections to improve transparency and stronger penalties in the financial sector. The report also called for political neutrality for Korea's Financial Services Commission and the Financial Supervisory Service. Korea's global competitiveness drifted downward this year due to low government and business efficiency. In its World Competitive Report 2014, the Switzerland-based International Institute for Management Development said Korea dropped by 4 notches to 26th out of the 60 ranked economies among 4 main sectors that determine the nation's competitiveness. Economic achievements and infrastructure remained unchanged from last year, but government and business efficiency dropped. The US topped the list with Switzerland and Hong Kong in 2nd and 3rd, respectively. Japan was 21st and China 23rd, both above Korea. Time now for a look through our international headlines. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim, standing by for us at the News Center. Morning, Eunice.
Good morning to you, Mark. We'll begin today with some cyber news. E-commerce company eBay is asking its 145 million users worldwide to change their passwords, as hackers may have gotten away with their personal information. A cyber attack was carried out 3 months ago, during which eBay says an unknown number of accounts were compromised. The company says hackers likely got away with email addresses, encrypted passwords, birth dates, and other information. Financial information was not among the data taken, according to the popular online auction site. eBay also said it does not believe hackers got to its payment subsidiary, PayPal. And 48 people are dead and 3 more suspected village strikes by Boko Haram. This reported on Wednesday. Residents in Arirang said gunmen killed 17 as they swept through their village Tuesday night and left with stolen food and vehicles. Arirang is close to the area of Chibok, where more than 200 schoolgirls were abducted from their dormitories last month. 10 others died in the village of Shawa, where eyewitnesses said militants came through on motorcycles. This as people are still searching for bodies in that central city of Jos, where 2 bomb explosions there claimed at least 118 lives on Tuesday. A 7-party meeting between key political factions in Thailand has ended without agreement as the country continues to be mired in political turmoil. Thailand's army chief had called for the meeting 1 day after martial law was declared across the kingdom. The group of top politicians and protest leaders had been asked to reconvene Thursday in an effort to find a peaceful solution and break the 6-month political deadlock that led to 6 months of violent protests. Meanwhile, the Thai Election Commission met separately to consider the caretaker government's proposal of fresh elections on August 3rd. And a gargantuan election of another kind. The European Union will hold elections this week to elect 751 members of the European Parliament. Almost 400 million Europeans from 28 different countries will have the chance to cast their ballots over 4 days. Voter turnout, though, is expected to be relatively low, with much support swinging to extreme sides of the political aisle.
And a good Thursday morning to you all as we kick things off with the South Korean national football team as they continue to prepare for the upcoming World Cup in Brazil. And in their latest news, manager Hong Myung-bo has chosen his captain. Now, though not officially announced, manager Hong Myung-bo stated that the captain for the upcoming World Cup was chosen amongst the team members, and it's 25-year-old midfielder Koo Ja-chul, who plays for Mainz. Although there are older players on the team, manager Hong felt that he has the best leadership on and off the field and should be able to be the leader in the team. Now, Captain Koo has also been the captain for the 2009 U20 World Cup, the 2010 Guangzhou Asian Games, and the 2012 London Olympics as well. And staying with football, the team that kick-started Park Ji-sung's career overseas, PSV Eindhoven, is in Korea to celebrate their 100th year and to kick off their Korea tour. Joined by Park Ji-sung, PSV held a press conference and a fan meeting as they kicked off their Korea tour. The team, which was established back in 1913, is also celebrating their 100th anniversary. Meanwhile, kicking off the Korea tour will be PSV Eindhoven taking on the Suwon Samsung Blue Wings at the Suwon World Cup Stadium, followed by Gyeongnam FC on the 24th. And now shifting over to archery, where after a successful World Cup event in Colombia, the South Korean archery team has swept the #1 ranking in all 5 categories. Well, not much of a surprise if you look at their success in the international events, as the men's and women's individual and the men's and women's team all took the top spot once again. Meanwhile, the mixed team, which consists of Oh Jin-hyuk and also Lee Taek-young, overtook the United States for the top ranking, giving Korea the top ranking in all 5 categories. And now over to the LPGA, where after missing out on the past 2 competitions, world #1 Park In-bi is all set for the upcoming Airbus LPGA Classic starting this Thursday. And of course, Park In-bi decided not to take part in the past 2 events in order to work on her putting, which her fiancé/coach pointed out had flaws this season. Despite Park having an amazing season last year, she has yet to win an LPGA title this season, as she hopes to finally claim a title and continue her streak as the #1 LPGA player. And now going into Wednesday night's KBO action, the LG Twins shut out the Kia Tigers 4-0 with the Samsung Lions rallying back to beat the Lotte Giants 7-5, and the SK Wyverns beat the NC Dinos 10-2. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the Hanwha Eagles take on the Nexen Heroes. Of course, going into the game we go to the second inning. Kim Kyung-eun RBI single to center field. This goes through, and Hanwha draws first blood 1-0. But the 4th inning, Lee Taek-eun at batting, he drills this ball to deep center field, and there it goes, going, gone, and we're tied 1-1. Just a roller coaster of a game with the game tied 4-4 in the 9th. Chung Bong-mo sends this one to deep center field, and there it goes, gone, and Hanwha has the lead 5-4. Not done yet, bases loaded for Kim Tae-gyun here, and so long farewell, a grand slam, and Hanwha is up 9-4. But bottom of the 9th inning, Lee Taek-eun at batting, he singles to the left side, through the left side, make it 9-5. Next up, Park Byung-ho at bat, RBI single to left center field, and now it's 9-6. Next, it continues to threaten once again, but Kim Min-sung grounds into a double play, scoring is Lee Taek-eun, but that's how the game ends, 9-7, your final score. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Esta salida es de emergencia.
Good morning. Well, summer-like temperatures and sunshine will stay put on today. Temperatures are expected to remain in the upper 20s to low 30s, so it's going to feel like summer today. And right now, some of the inland regions, though, are waking up to patches of fog, and which should burn off quickly, and the sun will stick around, making it warmer than the actual temperature. So again, sunny May Day is in store in the entire nation. Now, over in Chindo, winds should be blowing at 4 to 7 meters per second, and waves should be 0.5 meters high at the most, and the currents in the water should remain slow. Well, the most parts of the peninsula will have higher readings than yesterday, so let's take a closer look at those numbers. The low in Seoul is starting out at 15, but the high will rise to 28, while Daegu and Gwangju should pick 31 and 30 respectively, and Busan will top out at 24. Now for other regions, it looks like down on Jeju and Daejeon will rise to 24 and 28, while Mount Gyeongbuk should see a high of 15. Well, that's all for now, but I'll be back with more updates after 10.
Well, those are the stories we have for you at this hour. Korea Today is coming up in 30 minutes' time, and we'll be back at the same time tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.